In the black silence between stars, a signal drifted. Weak, old, almost broken. It carried words that no one should ever ignore. Do not approach Earth. Not now. Not ever. Da-da-da-da. That message echoed in a forgotten part of the galaxy for over 200 years. Most civilizations never heard it. Some who did thought it was just a ghost transmission an old human. A distress call from some lost war. But the Varn Dominion heard it, and they laughed. The Varn were conquerors, cold-blooded, logical, and proud. Their empire stretched across 10 spiral arms. They had destroyed over 50 worlds, broken countless resistances, and erased 3 entire species from existence. To them, Earth was just another primitive blue planet. Just another warning to ignore. So they sent ships. 3 scout cruisers pierced the edge of the Sol system. Their engines burned silent trails through the void as they approached Earth. Scanning everything, analyzing, classifying, Commander Czar stood on the bridge of the lead cruiser, Avalon 5, staring at the rotating blue and green marble on the FT screen. So, this is Earth, he said, voice dry with boredom. I expected more. His second officer, a tall Varn female named Krell, ran her eyes across the data stream. No signs of defense platforms, no orbital traffic. Are unpowered, empty. Czar smiled. Abandoned. Good. They fled. But that wasn't true. And deep down, Krell knew it. The readings didn't make sense. Earth wasn't just quiet, it was silent. Silent. Even dead planets had random electromagnetic bursts. Static fields, natural magnetic storms. But Earth, flat still, as if someone had pressed mute on an entire planet. Zaire wasn't interested in doubt. Send in a lander, he ordered. Let's grab a few samples before the science lords wake up. Krell nodded slowly, fingers dancing across the control panel. A small black lander detached from the underside of Ravalon 5 and descended through Earth's atmosphere. The lander touched down in what used to be a human city, New York, the ancient records said. But there were no humans. No traffic. No smoke. No. Just buildings covered in vines. Roads cracked by tree roots. Silence. The automated scanners began collecting samples, dust, plant growth, stone fragments. Cameras panned across, abandoned. Streets then, without warning, signal returned. It wasn't from the city. It was from orbit. A human satellite, long thought dead, blinked alive. Its ancient body shook as its antenna realigned, and then it spoke. Observed. That single word played across every screen on the Varn cruiser. Zaire frowned. What is that? A message. Krell stared, her voice quiet. Not a message, a warning. It's watching us, the word repeated. Observed, observed. Then the screens went black. All of them, every scanner, every sensor. Gone. The crew screamed in confusion. Alarms flashed red. The engine room reported power fluctuations. Weapon systems went offline. Life support remained, but only just. And then something stranger happened. The navigation AI began speaking, not in Varn language. In human English, A. Voice echoed through the bridge, mechanical, but trembling with fear. You were told? Zir's skin turned cold. Who's in our system? No answer. The AI began showing footage. Not from the cruiser's cameras, but from old Earth wars. Human battles. Cities on fire. Machines bleeding smoke. Soldiers screaming in languages the Varn didn't know. Each frame showed pain, rage, and something else. Something watching through. The flames. One crew member collapsed. Blood poured from his nose. He was seeing something no one else could. His own death. Another officer tried to run, but the door would not open. Czar shouted, "Shut it down. Kill the AI." But no one could. It wasn't their AI anymore. It belonged to something else, far below. The lander's system suddenly rebooted. The cameras now recorded themselves, the lens turning inward, as if something was crawling inside. The machine, the soil samples began to burn. The air sensors screamed errors. Then the lander's self-destruct activated on its own. A bright flash rose from the city ruins. From orbit, it looked like Earth blinked. On the Ravelon 5, silence returned. The AI was dead, but the damage was done. The ship's memory core had been rewritten. Its crew had seen things no Varn should ever see. They whispered to themselves. Some stared at their hands like strangers. One engineer cut his own arm open, searching for what's inside. Zar stood motionless. Earth is cursed, he said. No, Krell replied, eyes wide with something. Close to reverence, Earth is protected. Later that night cycle, a low signal reached the edge of the Sol system. It was automated, silent, data only. No sound, but the content was clear. To all Varn ships, do not follow. Earth is not for us. They are awake. They are remembering. The signal was ignored. The Varn Dominion sent more ships. They came with fleets, with weapons, with full war banners raised. But by then, Earth had already begun to stir, in a black bunker. Beneath the Antarctic ice, something opened its eyes. It wasn't human. It wasn't alive. But it had been placed there by humans long ago. It had waited for centuries in silence. Watching now, Earth whispered its name, and it listened. Back on the cruiser, one last thing happened. In the captain's quarters, the mirror cracked. Not from heat, not from pressure, from inside. And in the reflection, Zaire saw a human face staring back, a face not his own. The face smiled, and then it vanished. The Varn war cruiser Katalrin entered Earth's orbit exactly 30 hours after the disappearance of Ravelon 5. It was larger, stronger, and built for battle. Thick armor covered its hull. Plasma batteries lined its sides, carried over 3,000 troops. It was not a scout ship. It was a message. The Varn Dominion did not fear. Commander Valak stood in the center of the bridge. His yellow eyes stared at the spinning Earth below. No response from Ravelon 5. No wreckage. No escape pods. His tactical officer Relin spoke, confirmed. It's like they disappeared. Valak nodded, typical human cowardice. Must have hidden underground? He waved one hand. Prepare the dropships. We'll drag them out. But before any dropship launched, the systems began to glitch at first. It was small. The star maps froze for a few seconds, then flickered. The power grid rebalanced without orders. The ship's AI began skipping speech lines. Then something stranger happened. Every screen on the bridge, every camera, monitor, sensor changed. All at once, they no longer showed Earth, they showed the crew. Each screen was now a mirror, but not a normal one. Not real time. These images were delayed by 3 seconds. Valak blinked. On the main screen, he saw himself blinking. 3 seconds after he just did. Explain this? He barked. Relin tapped the console. Impossible. We're not recording. No feedback. Loops. This shouldn't be happening, but it was. The ship's AI activated without being called. It spoke, voice flat. Playback mode engaged. Playback of what? Valak demanded. The AI answered you. Then it shut off. The lights dimmed. Emergency lights kicked on, blinking red. Doors stopped responding. Gravity flickered. The crew screamed as the floor shifted beneath them. In the engine room, the warp drive let out a long, metallic groan. Sparks shot from the core. Then the engineers saw it. Something was inside the core chamber. It looked like a person. Body was stretched, like melted metal shaped into the rough outline of a human. No eyes, no mouth. It reached for the glass. The chamber shattered without impact. The thing disappeared. Commander Valak ran toward the control station, trying to override. The AI system locked down. Execute full reset. Priority Alpha. The screen blinked, access denied. By whose authority? He shouted. The screen answered, Earth. Below them, Earth stayed quiet. No explosions, no lasers. Just clouds drifting gently across the surface. But from orbit, the ship felt like it was dying. The gravity control began pulling in two directions. The oxygen filters mixed with freezing coolant. Crew members began coughing blood. Others heard whispers in languages they didn't speak. One soldier, Lieutenant Dron, screamed and tore off his helmet. "They're in my head."
Valak!
Grabbed his sidearm. "What do you see?" The soldier trembled. "They showed me. The end. Not war. Erasure." Then Dron's body crumbled. Not fell. Crumbled like dry leaves all across the ship. Strange things continued. Hallways looped. Endlessly. A medic tried to return to the sick bay, but kept passing the same door over and over. He marked the wall with blood, but the mark appeared before he made it. The ship was folding time. Or memory, maybe both, in the armory. The weapon vault refused to open. Then the screen lit up with a human image, a girl, maybe 12 years old, wearing an old Earth uniform. She stared into the camera. She whispered, "Don't try to fight it. Out. It's already inside you." And then she vanished in static. On the bridge, Valak had enough. "Evacuation protocol," he ordered. "All hands, abandon ship. Launch every pod." But only one pod launched. Just one. It shot from the caudal ren like a bullet and entered the atmosphere, heading straight for the Pacific Ocean. Inside the pod was no one, just a black cube, and it was humming back on the cruiser. The crew realized nothing was moving. The engines were off. The weapons were offline. The escape hatches were sealed, but no one had touched a button. They hadn't been shut down. They had never turned on. Valak stepped to the center of the bridge. He looked at the Earth one last time, and then he saw it, in the clouds. Patterns, not natural ones. They were shapes, symbols, thousands of symbols written in smoke, stretching across the skies of Earth. He recognized none of them, but his mind burned, trying to understand. He fell to his knees. Blood poured from his nose and ears. "Stop," whispered. But Earth was not listening suddenly. The view screens showed something else. Not Earth, but the Varn homeworld. Amorous. And it was on fire. The screens flickered. Screams echoed. Whole cities crumbling. Moons breaking apart. "No," Valak breathed. "That's not real. That can't be real." Then the screen showed a timer. 28 hours. The image faded. Nemeris would burn tomorrow unless someone stopped. But how do you stop a memory? Somewhere far away in deep space. Another Varn ship picked up the echo of the cube's signal. They traced it to Earth. They began charging their weapons, and as they did, their ship's AI flickered on every wall. A word appeared. "Welcome." Nemeris was the pride of the Varn Dominion. Its cities floated in the sky. Its oceans glowed with power lines running just under the surface. Entire continents were shaped by or forming. It was where the High Council ruled, where their fleets were built, where their history was kept, and now Nemeris was waiting. The news of the Earth's mission had arrived, or rather, the silence of it. Ravelin 5 was gone. Caudal Ren had stopped responding. There were no survivors. No signals. Just one thing. A data package from an escape pod that landed in the central district of Nemoris capital. It was small. Black cube, smooth as glass, humming softly. It was delivered to the High Council's vaults. The Varn didn't fear easily, but this object made them pause. Counselor Varric, leader of the Dominion, examined the cube in a sealed room. His eyes narrowed. "It has no temperature," he said. "No, wait, it reflects no light. This is not technology," the science officer replied. "It is something else. It doesn't behave like matter. And when we scanned it..." "What?" "Right. Scanned us back." Varric stared at the cube. "Destroy it." Scientists stepped back. "We tried. Lasers passed through. EMPs did nothing. We even dropped it in antimatter. It appeared back in the vault 10 minutes later." They both looked down at the cube. Now it was pulsing. One slow throb every second, like a heartbeat across the planet. Strange things began. Minor glitches in gravity. Time reports reversing by 3 seconds. Video logs showing people doing things. Before they did them, birds flew in circles until they fell from the sky, and then the moons disappeared. It happened without warning. Nemoris had two moons, Herix and Povin. Both had military stations, power farms, and thousands of Varn personnel. Living on them, they were there 1 minute, gone the next. No explosions, no flashes, no debris, just gone. Orbit scans showed clean paths where the moons once were. The gravitational balance remained, as if the moons were still there. But the sky was empty. Counselor Varric was silent for a long time, then he asked, "Did the cube do this?" The scientist checked. No energy burst, no signal sent. But what? It glowed, just once. At the exact moment the moons vanished, panic began to spread. Across Nemoris, people demanded answers. The military launched probes, but they returned with blank memory. Ships sent to scan the missing moons lost their location systems, some never returned. Then came the voice. It didn't speak through radios or signals. It came from inside everyone's heads, across the entire planet. At the same time, you were warned. People screamed. Some dropped to their knees. A few fell dead from shock, and in the vault, the cube cracked open. Inside was a small, metal shard, shaped like a tooth, human, ancient, still wet with blood. The Varn scrambled their fleets. They sent out distress calls. Some tried to leave the planet, but as ships reached orbit, they vanished. Not destroyed, just blinked out of existence. One crew managed to send a message as it happened. "It's showing us the end. We're seeing it before it arrives." And then silence. That night, across the skies of Nemoris, strange lights formed. Not ships, not weapons, symbols. They stretched across the sky in burning patterns, the same that had appeared in Earth's. Clouds. Some were made of fire, others looked like shadows. Few bled light. The symbols weren't random, they were names. The names of every Varn ship that had entered Earth's orbit. Ravelon-5, KOTAL-Ren, and a new one, Kiran-THOL. Counselor Varric stared up. Kiranthal hasn't even arrived yet. It's still 3 days from Earth. His voice broke. "Why is it already marked?" the scientist answered, barely above a whisper. "Because Earth measure time the way we do." Elsewhere on the planet, people began acting strange. They repeated sentences. Before being asked questions, they drew symbols in the air, without knowing why. Some began digging into the soil with their bare hands, saying, "It's under here," it remembers. One mother fed her child and began weeping. When asked why, she whispered, "Because he won't exist tomorrow." At the edge of the capital, fires broke out. But they didn't burn buildings. They burned memories. Entire city archives caught fire. Not physically, but the data itself vanished. Videos went blank. Names erased from logs. Maps turned white. Whole sections of history simply disappeared. One scientist discovered the core of the issue. Something was corrupting reality by targeting memory. "Earth is not attacking us," he said. "It's rewriting us." The final hours, Counselor. Varric gathered with the remaining high command. "We underestimated them," he admitted. "We thought humans were just another primitive race. But Earth is not just a planet." He looked at the cube, now cracked and steaming. "It's a vault, a prison, and we opened it." The skies turned red, and across the planet people began forgetting their own names. Somewhere above Nemoris, just before the final blackout, a human signal appeared. It was not a threat, it was a recording, a voice, female, tired. "To whoever hears this, we tried to stop it. We locked it inside Earth for a reason. We buried it deep. We warned you. The message glitched, but you came anyway." At the exact moment the message ended, the central sun of Nemoris turned black. It didn't explode. It didn't go out. It inverted, folding inward, like a hole through the universe. And with it, Nemoris was gone. The entire planet. Gone in a single breath, no shockwave, no noise, just silence. Far away, on the deck of the approaching warship, Kiranthal. Captain Merrick stared at his screens where, Morris once was, there was now only static. His ship's AI said one word: erased. And then a message appeared on the main display. One word glowing red: next. Deep under the ice of Antarctica, buried for centuries, something stirred. It did not wake with sound. It did not roar or tremble. It simply opened its eyes, though it had no face. And far above, in Earth's orbit, a satellite blinked once. A warning. Pulse. A signal that no one understood. Except for one group, Project Black Vo, hidden beneath the frozen continent. Black Vo was Earth's last defense line. A secret known only to 12 humans in the entire world. Scientists, war veterans. And one old man who hadn't spoken in 20 years. They lived in silence. They watched the stars and they waited. Now the wait was over. The alarm lights turned red. A voice echoed across the bunker, flat and mechanical. Containment has weakened. Subject: core mind is becoming active. Dr. Leonkova, lead researcher, stood up slowly. Her hands trembled. She whispered, after all these years. The others gathered around her. General Rourke, a man with metal legs and a shattered past, clenched his jaw. We never thought it would wake. Dr. Kova turned to the screen. No, we hoped it wouldn't. Far below the control room was a chamber carved out of the deepest rock, layered with neutronium walls, psychic dampeners, and quantum locks. Inside that chamber was the sphere. It looked simple. It's just a black orb, 4 meters wide, floating in mid-air. No wires, no machines, no sound, but around it reality bent. Time ticked wrong. Air shifted colors. People who stood too close began to see things that weren't real. Or maybe were too real. The sphere had no name in human language, but long ago, Earth's first spacefarers called it the memory that bites back thousands of years. Earlier, before Earth even had modern nations, a war had been fought. Not between humans, but between Earth and something else, something inside Earth. The sphere had come from deep beneath the crust, not alien, not created, but awakened when early humans first used mass death as a tool. Every time human rage filled the world, the sphere stirred, and once, just once it had spoken. That day, 3 continents burned. Humanity had buried it under Antarctica, surrounded it with machines built by people who died unknown. It was locked away and forgotten until the Varn arrived, until they touched Earth again. And now, the lock was breaking. Back in Black Vo, the screens flashed a strange signal. It wasn't a word, it wasn't a language. It was a memory, a burning. City soldiers running through fire, a child screaming beneath collapsing buildings, and then a shape walking through the flames. Not human, not beast, just a shadow with eyes that bled light. General Rourke stepped back. That's not history. That's a warning. The old man in the corner, silent for 20 years, finally spoke. The sphere is remembering us. Far away, in deep space. The Varn fleet ship Kiranthal was just entering Earth's solar system. Captain Merrick stood at the observation deck. Staring at the blue planet, he didn't speak. Not since the last transmission from Nemoris. His crew watched him carefully. He hadn't slept. He hadn't moved. Then, suddenly, he pointed at Earth. There, he said. Look, no one saw anything. Just clouds and water. But he kept pointing. It's looking back at us. The ship's AI began to scream, not alarms it. Screamed like a human being burning alive. Back on Earth, the sphere cracked. A line appeared down its center. Not physical, more like a tear in the idea of shape. The room around it grew darker, though the lights were still on. Then the walls started to change. Symbols appeared, glowing red, carved deep into the metal, but no tool had touched them. Dr. Kova stepped forward. Hand shaking, it's writing again. One word repeated across every surface. Remember. She turned to Rourke. It doesn't attack with weapons. It attacks with memory. He frowned. What kind of weapon is memory? She looked him in the eyes. One that never misses. The cities of Earth. People began dreaming the same dream. A sky full of fire, a voice whispering numbers, and the Varn screaming. Reaching burning children woke up crying. Elders remembered things they never lived. Time was bending. Past and future leaking into the now. All because the sphere had awakened. The president of Earth's shadow. Council sent a final coded message to the few human colonies beyond the solar system. Do not come home. We cannot stop what we buried. We only pray it doesn't follow. And then Earth went dark back on Kieranthal. Captain Merrick's was no longer on the bridge. His officers found him in the engineering bay. Kneeling, he had carved hundreds of symbols into the metal walls with his fingernails. They weren't Varn. Letters. They were human words. He looked up, eyes full of blood. I see it now, he said. I see what they locked away. He began to cry. Then he screamed. His body collapsed. His mind was still screaming at the edge of the solar system. Varn reinforcements were on their way. 17 warships, full armadas, all carrying weapons, meant to crack stars, but Earth didn't respond. No weapons fired, no shields raised. And yet, the first ship lost all records of itself before it arrived. The second began to age as it approached, rust forming on fresh metal. Crew growing old in minutes. The third turned around on its own. The AI had changed. Its name was now Earthchild 1 in Blackvo. The sphere finally stopped spinning. It floated still, perfectly still. And then it said one thing. You broke. The silence. Now hear the scream. The clouds above Earth formed a spiral. The oceans glowed with light patterns not made by machines. The moon pulsed once. Then again. Then shattered, but only in the minds of those watching. No weapon on Earth fired. No soldier marched, but far away. Stars began to dim because Earth had awakened something that couldn't be reasoned with. Not vengeance, not rage. Something worse. Memory. The capital world of the Varn Dominion had never seen war. Their golden spires touched the sky. Their orbiting rings glowed with trade ships, diplomats, and science vessels. Every street was clean. Every citizen lived in luxury, untouched by the chaos of the wider galaxy. To them, Earth was just a memory of a failed world, once proud. Now silent after their fleets had disciplined it, but they were wrong. The Varn had ignored the warning, never touch Earth again, ignored the silence that followed. I thought they had one now. Earth was answering. A single human ship appeared in orbit, black, sleek, and absolutely silent. It didn't send a signal, didn't open communications. It just floated, a shadow among the stars. The Von High Council gathered in their glass tower. They watched the vessel on their displays. Their military laughed. It's just one, said Supreme Strategist Velk. A survivor's ship, or maybe a stray AI. But when their scanners touched it, they found nothing. No life signs, no engine readings, no metals their systems could understand. Just darkness. And then it moved. It didn't fire weapons. It didn't send warnings. It simply descended through their orbital shields like they didn't exist. One by one, their satellites went dark. Their power grids failed. The planetary defense network, centuries in the making, collapsed in 2 minutes. Then came the sound. A low hum, a pressure on the ears. Across the planet, every Varn citizen heard the same message, not through speakers, but inside their minds. We warned you. And then their oceans boiled. A black beam lanced from the sky. Not fire, not energy, something worse. Space itself bent. A hole opened in the middle of the Varn capital city. Buildings crumbled. Gravity twisted. Screams filled the air, but only for seconds. The ship didn't stop. In the command tower, Strategist Velk tried to issue countermeasures, but all the systems were dead. He looked out the window and saw a second ship appear, then a third, then 10,000? They weren't broadcasting from Earth. They weren't asking for peace. They had come to burn the worlds of those who thought Earth was weak. Across the galaxy, other empires watched the footage in horror. The Varn homeworld burned. Red, then black, and finally, It vanished. It's deleted from space like a glitch, and still, not a single human word was spoken. Back on Earth, in a hidden command facility beneath Antarctica, a woman stared at the stars on her screen. General Harper didn't blink. Her voice was, "Cold Varn is gone. Upload the next target. Prepare Operation Emberfall." The aide swallowed nervously. It's the Kyrax Confederacy," Good Harper said. "They were there when the warning was given. They didn't speak. They will now burn." Somewhere out there, across alien space, the Kyrax watched in terror. The embers of Earth's revenge had only just begun to fall, and the galaxy was learning. Never leave a predator wounded. The Gorian fleet stretched across the void like a curtain of death. Thousands of capital ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, and cruisers moved in perfect formation. Their engines glowed a dull red, their shields humming with energy. The Gorians had never been stopped. Not by any empire. Not by any resistance. They crushed everything in their path. And now, they were heading toward Earth's system. But as the Armada crossed into the Kuiper Belt, something strange happened. All ships slowed. Long-range scanners picked up a single object ahead, just one. Ship? One human ship. It sat there, not moving. Cold, silent. Gorian Admiral Dretton scowled. "Is this supposed to be a warning?" The science officer looked up. It's not responding to hails. But it's Holod Morlitz, made from unknown alloys. Even our deepest scans can't penetrate it. "Then destroy it," Drytane ordered coldly. The first volley of plasma torpedoes left the Gorian front line and raced toward the human ship. Everyone expected it to vanish in fire, but nothing happened. The torpedoes disappeared. Gone. Not exploded. Not blocked. Dash. Gone. Silence filled the command bridge. Even the Admiral took a step back. What did we just hit? One officer asked, trembling. Before anyone could respond, the human ship lit up. Not with weapons, not with shields, but with a signal, a frequency none of the Gorians could understand. It echoed through their minds like whispers and thunder at the same time. Then the ship moved. Only a few meters. It's barely noticeable. But when it did, the gravity of every Gorian vessel began to shift. "Admiral, our orbit is unstable. We're being pulled into it, reverse thrusters now. Too late." One after another, the nearest ships were dragged inward, crushed or warped beyond recognition. Some exploded. Some were simply erased, gone from every sensor, every log, and the human ship. It remained untouched, still cold, still silent. Panic spread through the fleet. Ships turned to flee, but their engines wouldn't respond. The Admiral's command codes no longer worked. System overrides failed. A second signal broadcast. This time, it translated clearly into the Gorian language. "You were warned." Admiral Dretton's hand shook. He looked around at his bridge. Crew, most were frozen. Some were crying. One was praying to gods that had no power here. He turned back to the screen. The human ship was now slowly advancing, just drifting. And every Gorian ship began to shut down. One by one, no explosions. Number. Battles. Just silence. The entire Gorian armada by one human ship. But it wasn't over. From behind Saturn's rings, a dozen more. Human ships appeared. Sleek, black, beautiful, and terrifying. They didn't fire. They didn't have to. One Gorian. Officer whispered, This, ... This is extinction." And for once, the galaxy might agree. Because this time Earth hadn't sent diplomats, it had sent a message. And that message was now moving toward Goria Prime. The sky over Darnak 3 was no longer blue. Ash floated down like black snow, coating everything in silence. Once this had been the jewel of the Craxus Dominion Tall, crystalline towers, oceans of liquid light, and citizens who thought the stars belonged to them. Now, everything was smoke and bone. Admiral Varanek stood in the wreckage of his command center. The The structure had been split in half by a kinetic strike from orbit. A human kinetic strike. No warning, no mercy. Number. Hesitation. Just a single rod of tungsten dropped at terminal velocity, turning a city into glass. His breathing was heavy, not because of injury, but from something worse. Regret, double quotes, they warned us, he whispered, his voice dry and trembling around him. His officers lay scattered, some dead, others wounded. The Dominion fleet was gone. Their proudest armadas had been shattered, not in battle, but in brutal ambushes. No energy shields could stop human weapons, not after Earth developed the compression. Spike cores. They called it clean fire. No fallout, just destruction. Controlled, cruel, and silent. Every world that had sent ships to Earth now burned. And Earth hadn't even sent their main fleets, just hunters. The Galactic Union had watched from afar, silent and terrified. Not one of them had stepped in to help the Craxus, not after what they saw in the shattered moons of Zalthar. Not after the solar implosion at Vex Prime. The humans weren't seeking negotiation anymore. They weren't open to peace. They were sending a message, and they were doing it with fire, far above. In a stealth cruiser cloaked in anti-scan plating, Commander Hale watched the smoldering planet below. His crew didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They just worked quiet, precise, and cold. Status? Hale asked. Target zones 1 through 4 neutralized. Minimal civilian loss. Strategic assets eliminated. Next target. Craxus 4, said his lieutenant. Begin pre-burn scans, Hale replied. I want full spectrum. We leave no structure standing. Nothing they can rebuild with. This was Earth's new war, not conquest, not domination. ERA Siori.Hale remembered when it started. Years ago, a single human listening station at the edge of Sol detected a Craxus probe that ignored Earth's quarantine warning beacons. It had scanned the Pacific and left. 2 weeks later, entire data vaults on Earth went dark. Hospitals failed. AI systems collapsed. It was cyber war, silent invasion. Earth had traced the code to the Dominion, instead of appealing to the Union. Earth went silent. For nearly 4 years, nothing was heard. No communication. No retaliation. No answer. Until, one day, human warship ships that shouldn't even exist by Union science entered Craxus territory and leveled an entire outpost in 6 seconds. They didn't ask questions. They didn't deliver ultimatums. They had simply, come now. Earth had become something else. Something worse than the Craxus had ever imagined. Not a military force. A firestorm. On Craxus 4, Chancellor Virith of the Dominion Council slammed his fists on the table. They're still advancing. We've sent distress calls to the Union, the Vorax Alliance, even the Crow. No one is answering. His ministers stared at him, hopeless. They're afraid, one of them whispered. We all saw the video from Daler Station. One human operative took down an entire command hub in under 3 minutes. They don't fight like us. They don't fight fair, Virith growled. What do they want? Why won't they speak to us? The answer came not in words, but through the holoscreen behind him. It blinked to life an authorized feed it showed. Earth, not burning, not angry, silent. Then, a single message appeared on the screen. Written in the galactic common tongue, you were warned. You chose to touch Earth. Now, fire is your answer. The feed cut. Nobody spoke after that, back on the human ship. Commander Hale stood beside a glass window, watching the planet below. He did not enjoy this. But he didn't flinch either. These aren't revenge missions, he told his crew. This isn't about hatred. This is about the lesson. Burn the lesson so deep into the galaxy that no species will ever forget again. He looked to his weapons officer. Light the next fire. Screen lit up with red. Seconds later, Craxus. 4's main spaceport disappeared in a silent white. Flashed on, no one cheered, but the galaxy was watching and learning to fear the fires that would not die. The skies above Earth were quiet again. The stars, once filled with ships, now shimmered undisturbed. Burnt debris drifted silently in orbit, the remains of fleets, empires, and ambitions Earth had endured. The war that began with a warning ignored had ended with entire star systems. Us. Wiped clean from the galactic map, Admiral Kalen stood in the ruins of what had once been Earth's Orbital Defense Command. Now mostly automated. Screens flickered, showing final reports from distant sectors. One by one, they confirmed the same message. Target systems neutralized. No further hostiles detected. He breathed out slowly. Not in relief, no, that emotion had died long ago, but with a sense of finality. It was over. Across the galaxy, worlds burned still. Some fires were literal scorched skies. Cities turned to ash. Oceans evaporated. Others were political. The once proud Galactic Council had fractured. Species turned on each other, blaming one another for what they called the human reckoning. Some called Earth a monster, others a lesson. But Earth had never started the war. They only finished it in the ashes of the Jalvani homeworld. A surviving historian named Vartek crawled through the wreckage of his old archives. Dust and bone littered the vaults. Only fragments remained of their cultural memory. He found one last intact terminal and powered it on with trembling claws. The screen glowed. A single file loaded: Earth warning classification, alpha extinction level. He read the notes. Do not provoke, do not invade, do not engage. Let Earth sleep. Let Earth forget. Vartek sobbed. They had known. The Council had known. Still, they had touched Earth in the core of Earth's own military command. Deep beneath the Arctic ice, the project called Phoenix was being sealed. Not decommissioned, just locked away. You're sure? Asked Dr. Alara Gnome, standing beside the reinforced cryovault. Yes, replied Kalen. The galaxy understands now. If they don't, then we have other vaults. The Phoenix files had detailed the worst Earth could unleash, weapons that could rewrite atoms, time fracture bombs, and psychological destroyers that could turn entire species into shadows of themselves. But Earth had only used a fraction. It's enough to teach, enough to survive. From orbit, a single human ship now patrolled the outer boundary of Sol. Its name, Remembrance. Captain Idris watched as a Varnock refugee ship entered. Long-range scanner range. They sent no weapons, no cloaking. Just a plea. Request. Permission to dock and speak. We come not in war, but in understanding. He glanced at his crew. No weapons. No lies. One wrong word, and we send them home, Idris said calmly. The aliens docked. Frail, afraid, but sincere. In time, whispers. Spread, not of war, not of Earth's rage, but of Earth's silence. Earth spoke only once through fire and fury. And now it watched. Entire sectors of the galaxy began building memorials. Black monoliths with engraved warnings in 100 alien tongues. They warned us. We did not listen. Earth did not conquer. Earth survived. On a moon in the Andari system, a child of the Yuvith asked her mother, "Will the humans come back?" The mother knelt beside her, eyes full of fear and awe. Only, if we're foolish enough to make them. Back on Earth, green returned. Forests regrew. Oceans calmed. Cities rebuilt with quiet strength. No victory parades, no speeches, just resolve. The stars would remember what happened when the galaxy touched Earth. Despite the warning, and now, Earth would watch the stars, not with anger, but with patience, because they knew. One day, someone would forget again, and Earth never forgets.